Hello, and thank you for your interest in the USALIMS mobile app. This video demonstrates the functionality available in the app to clients of laboratories that are using USALIMS. If you do not have a user account to access the USALIMS mobile app, please contact the laboratory directly and they'll create a user account for you, which will send you an email containing a username and password to log in to the app. Once you have a user account and have downloaded the USALIMS mobile app to your mobile device, you can launch the app and get started. First thing you'll need to do is to log in with that username and password that were supplied to you. So I'll go ahead and log in here with my username and password. You'll also need to select the lab that you want to log into. You'll see an actual list of labs here. And then you can just go ahead and click Login, and you will go to the home screen of the USALIMS mobile app. Let me go ahead and log out and just show you a couple of the other features that are available here. First of all, note that if you have forgotten your password, you can click Forgot Password, and you'll have to supply your username and the lab that you are logging in against. And when you click the Reset Password button, a new password will be sent to you. So you'll be able to log in with that new password, and then you'll be required to change that to something of your choice after that login. Also notice the Remember Me option. When you use the Remember Me option, then each time you launch the app, your login information will be remembered and you will automatically be logged in to the mobile app. Once you log into the USALIMS mobile app, you are directed to the home screen. From here, you can use the various features of the app. Currently, the options are to work on EIA submissions, which we'll look at in more detail looking forward, or to log out of the app. Also notice that there is a menu in the upper left-hand corner, which appears throughout the application in various places that will bring you back to this home page. Again, allow you to work on EIA submissions, give you information about the app, which includes a link to a website that gives you a user guide and this instructional video. Also, you can change your password or log out from this menu. So let's go into the EIA submission area of the USALIMS mobile app and see what you can do here. Notice again the home menu is available. And then from here you have three different options. One is to create a new mobile EIA submission. Another is to look at draft submissions that you have created previously but not yet submitted to the laboratory. Note that you can use the mobile app without a connection. The first time you log in, you have to have a connection so that you can make that connection to the laboratory and pull down their information. But after that, there are portions of the app that you can actually use when you're out in the field when you don't necessarily have an internet connection on your mobile device. In those cases, you can start EIA submissions and save them as drafts and then come back to them later. So we'll look at that more closely a little bit later in this video. Notice also that you can pull up previous submissions. But we'll start with a new submission. So I'm just going to click this button here that allows us to start a new EIA submission. The EIA submissions area of the USALIMS mobile app contains a series of pages that allow you to specify the information that's needed to submit equine samples for EIA testing to the laboratory. So we'll walk through those pages together and show you how to specify and provide that information. The first page is the general information page, where you would specify the date that the blood was drawn or the collection date. By default, today's date is included there. You can certainly click in there and change the date as appropriate. The next area here allows you to specify a reason for testing, and you can just scroll through the list of options here and select the appropriate reason. And then finally you can select a test type. When you click Next, you'll proceed to the next page, and that information will be saved in a new draft that'll be created on your mobile device. Notice also at the bottom of each of the pages in the EIA submission area, you can perform various actions, including copying an EIA submission. We'll take a look at that when we look at previous submissions. You can delete the one that you're working on, or you can say Done, which takes you back to the home page again. This area here gives you a series of different choices, including, in this particular case, clearing the fields that you're looking at on this particular page. Also, when you're working on this next page, which is your stable market page, you can go out and find previously associated parties, previous stable markets perhaps where you'd collected information. You can also choose to fill in the fields on this particular page with the current location. Now, those particular options are available only on this particular stable market page here, but all the other areas, when you click the additional options icon there, will allow you to submit the draft, preview a submission form, or cancel. Now, we're not really going to be able to submit the draft until we supply more information, so let's proceed in taking a look at this page and what needs to be done here. The stable market page allows you to specify information about the stable or market for this EIA submission. And there are 3 ways to provide that information. One is simply to type in the information. So I could indicate that I'm at Sue's Stables. I could type in an address, and then notice that I can also supply a zip code. And when I do so, the city and state and county that represent that zip code are automatically filled in for me. I could choose to change that or modify that information if I wish to. The phone number field is available here, but it's not required. Notice that there is a clear option in the actions menu, so I'm going to go ahead and select that and clear out those fields. A second way to provide the stable market information is to find previously associated stables or markets. Really specifically what this is doing is just looking for other parties that I have been associated with on an accession in this lab's instance of USALIMS. So it's not specifically just looking for stables or markets, but any parties on which I was associated with which I was associated on an accession. But I can filter that list. For example, if I would type stable, I can see that there are 2 parties here whose name includes STA as I've typed here. So I could select one of those, and that party's address would be indicated here for me to include that as my stable market for this submission. I'll clear that again. And then the third way to do this is to say use current location, in which case your mobile device's physical location is tracked and filled in here in the stable market area. So several different options there. I'm going to go back and select a previously associated stable and go ahead and click Next to save that as part of this EIA submission. That takes me to the next page, which is an owner page, which is very similar to the stable market page. Again, I can type in owner information, I can find a previously associated owner, I can use the current location, or the other option here is to say the owner is the same as the stable or market, which will then copy the stable information over onto the owner page. Again, click Next, and that information is saved. The Animal Identifiers page allows you to specify one or multiple IDs for the animal. Notice also that in addition to typing in some sort of identifier, you can also click on the barcode icon here, which will navigate your device to the scanning capabilities of your device, so that if there were a barcode, like a two-dimensional, meaning up and down line type barcode on the animal, you could go ahead and scan that in instead of having to key those characters into the identifier's fields. The name of horse field is the one that is kind of used throughout the mobile app to identify this particular submission. For example, if you were to save this as a draft and submit it later, when you're looking at your list of drafts, the name of horse is what will be filled in here. So I'll go ahead and type in some name so that we'll be able to see this later when we're looking at it as a draft. Only one animal identifier is required in order for you to be able to submit this submission to the USALIMS laboratory. Clicking Next takes us to the other animal information page. This is where you can specify color, which is just a field that you would type in. You can specify breed as well, which you do by selecting this icon first, which then allows you to scroll through the list of available equine breeds that have been provided to you by the laboratory that you're connected to. If you wanted to sort of narrow down this search, you can filter the list that you see here just by typing in some characters. So here I see any horse name that has AME included in it. So I could select one of those and say done. And notice that the breed name appears here. Another option here is to select not found if the breed that you're looking for is not in the list, and then a box appears at the bottom where you can type in the appropriate breed name in case the one that you need is not in the list. I need to go ahead and specify a color here. You can specify the animal's age. You do need both a number and a unit. And actually you need to either provide an age or a date of birth. So you can certainly provide the date of birth if you have it, or the age, or both, but only one of those is required. So I'm actually going to clear out that selection there. And then you do need to select sex here also. The next 3 pages allow you to either take or select pictures of the animal to include in the submission. Now the simulator that I'm using here does not actually have a camera, so I can't demonstrate the taking a picture, but I'm sure you've taken pictures before with your mobile device and have seen how that works. I can use the select a picture feature here, which would take you into your photos area, allow you to open up an album or a folder and select a picture there. And you can see that there are 3 pages here, one for the left view, one for the face view, and one for the right view of the animal. And then the last page where you would specify your EIA submission information is the descriptions remarks page, where you can supply information about markings on the animal's head, other marks and brands, and then also on the forelimbs and hind limbs. These remarks or descriptions can be typed in, and you do need to supply some piece of information for all 6 of these descriptions remarks fields. So you can type them, or you can select the icon next to the field and select from a list of options, again, that the lab provides to you. That one's probably not the best example. If we look at the forelimb options, however, you'll see things like sock, stocking, etc. And you can select multiple options in here, which are then listed for that particular description type. So I'll go ahead and just fill in none for the others so that this submission is ready to go and all of the information has been supplied. After you fill in the descriptions and remarks and click Next, then you're taken to this Review Submission page, which lists just some basic information about this particular submission for you. the date, the stable market, the owner, and the name of the horse. And on this page, you can preview what the submission form will look like if you were to proceed with submitting this EIA case to the lab. It's basically generating a PDF that will show up on your mobile device here with all the information selected. Click Done to return here. I could also choose to submit the draft now. Maybe I've collected all the information, I'm ready for it to go. When I click Submit, in this case, however, I get an error because the submission process is checking to make sure that all the required information has been provided, and I did not provide a face or right view picture of the animal. So I'll need to go back and do that. Notice that the preview and submit options are also available in the actions menu, as I think we've noted before. So that's available really throughout each of the pages. But for now, what we're going to do is actually leave this in draft mode, not submit it, so we can take a look at how the drafts area works. So I'll click Done here, which is going to take me back to the EIA submissions page. This is where we started when we started going through all of the various pages of collecting information for the EIA submission. We had started by clicking the New Submission button here. The other options here are to look at your drafts and look at previous submissions. So let's take a look at the drafts area. And among other drafts here, you'll see the one for Ridgeview Stables, Black Beauty, that I was creating as part of this demonstration here with the current date. So if I were to click on that one, I can again walk through all of this information that I provided. I can change information, add information. Here's perhaps where I would need to go ahead and select pictures for my face and right view. So I'll just select a few more pictures here. And now when I go ahead and hit submit, I don't get any error messages, and I do just get a confirmation asking me if I wish to submit now. And it kind of explains here what happens, which is that when you click submit, you're going to actually be creating an accession in the LIMS database for the receiving laboratory. The submission form will be generated and emailed to the email address on record for your user account. And then what you would want to do is include a copy of that submission form with the actual samples when you submit them to the lab. The confirmation message that you see here may vary because each lab is able to configure this text, so don't be alarmed if that looks a little bit different for you. So now I'll go ahead and submit this. Okay, so we've looked at a new EIA submission, we've looked at how you can pull up your drafts and go through those and submit them. And then the other option in this EIA submissions area is to pull up previous submissions. So what I can do here is, let's say that I know that I submitted through the mobile app in the past, maybe sometime in the past year, for a horse named Tuck or something like that. So I can say, let's search for my previous submissions in a particular date range. Notice that I can supply stable market, owner, and/or the name of the horse or portions thereof. And what the app will do is search through the lab's LIMS database for submissions that match that criteria. And it's looking specifically for submissions that I myself as this particular user have submitted in the past, or at any submissions basically from someone else in my organization. So let's say I work for a veterinary practice and there's another doctor in that same veterinary practice who who did this submission in the past year. As long as our veterinary practice was included on the accession in LIMS, I'll actually be able to retrieve that as well. So once I find a previous submission here, and you can see I have a couple of matches, Tucker, Tucker 2, and a couple of different collection dates here. This is just sort of from our internal testing. What I can do is swipe the one that I want to work with and say, let's copy that. And what that will do is create a new submission with all of that information in it, and I can just go through and change the relevant information. So this is a new draw here, so I can put in a new date. And maybe all the rest of the information or most of the rest of the information is going to be the same. I can take new pictures if I wish to, but you can see it kind of walks me through all of those same pages again so that I can very quickly pull up that information, change what's necessary, and then create a new submission here. So once I retrieve it, it basically takes me to the same pages and the same final review page that we looked at previously. So thank you again for your interest in the USALIMS mobile app. If you have questions as you're working with the app, feel free to go back to that home page and to the menu there and navigate to the About area where you can click on the USALIMS mobile web page to get access to this video or a written user guide. If you have further questions, please contact the laboratory that you're working with. They can help you with questions or problems with your user account or other submission issues.